All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine from SEB Housing. And tonight I'm going to run the lottery for the affordable single-family homes at the Cottages at Old Oaken Bucket in Scituate. And there's 6 affordable single-family homes. I'll get the lottery underway in just a few minutes. First, just want to give you some background information on who applied and how the lottery and the process after the lottery will work. So if you have any questions during this session, there is a chat feature in Zoom, so you can type your question in there, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question. When you came into this meeting, you were muted just to minimize any outside noise. And you heard the disclaimer as you came into the meeting, but just a heads up that the meeting is being recorded because it will be posted to our YouTube, to SEB Housing's YouTube channel after the fact, in case anyone who was part of this lottery who wasn't able to watch wants to see the drawing take place. So again, first, just some background information on who applied. All of this information will be given to you in writing as a attachment to an email that you'll receive later on tonight. And so all households should already have a lottery application number. That's the number that's in the form of a series of numbers. So your number is somewhere between A.001 and A.031 in this case. So if you don't have that application number, if you forgot it, let me know. Again, there's the 6 affordable units. 31 completed applications were submitted, so there's going to be 31 households in this lottery. All homes are 3 bedrooms with 2.5 bathrooms. And of the approved applicants, 15 were type 4 households, 9 were type 2 households, and 7 were type 1 households. You know what? I don't think I have that correct. Hold on one second here. 13 were type 3 households, 9 were type 2 households, and 7 were type 1 households. That's what I should have said right there. So back when you completed your application, you indicated, and then SEB Housing confirmed for you what your household type, according to the Affordable Housing Program, was. So keep in mind that for these 3-bedroom homes, type 3 households are going to have priority over other households on the waiting list. And that's because the Affordable Housing Program is designed so that households don't have priority for units with more bedrooms than they might require. There's also local preference for 4 of the affordable homes. So if you answered yes to the local preference question on the lottery application, your lottery eligibility email confirmed that for you. And when the drawing takes place tonight, because of those preferences, so because I still need to sort the results from the drawing tonight based off of your household type and whether or not you have local preference, during the call tonight, you're not going to know exactly where you fall on the waiting list, but you will at least be able to see this step in the process. And the good news is I will be sorting the results of this drawing tonight. So you'll get an email later on tonight with the final waiting list. So you'll be able to see where you fall on the waiting list and whether or not you'll be moving forward in the process right away. So during the drawings tonight, there's going to be 2 drawings, one local preference drawing and one general drawing, which will include everyone. And I'll be using a website called random.org to complete the drawings. And like I said, the first drawing will be the local preference drawing. That's going to include households who indicated that they either live or work full-time in Scituate or have children going to school within the town. So what I'll do is I'll insert the applications for the 7 local preference households into a function called the list randomizer in random.org. And that's going to digitally generate a random order. So I'll be screen sharing so you're able to see that. And I'll do a demonstration in just a minute so you know what that's going to look like. Next, after the local preference drawing, I'll be inserting the 31 lottery household numbers into random.org, and that represents everyone who was approved for this lottery. And again, the website will digitally generate that random order. So the randomization of the lottery numbers is the drawing. I'm not going to be, pulling numbers out of a wheel or anything like that for this lottery. and the lottery numbers will be instantaneously randomized on the screen. So you'll see the results from the drawing right away. And like I said, I'll be sharing my screen so you can see that. All right, so I'm going to show you what that looks like, just so you're able to have a sense of what it's going to look like on your screen when I do the actual drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, I'll share my screen in just a second. I'm going to go into random.org. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes. I'm not doing the drawing just yet for the lottery. But you should be able to see my screen. This is a really basic looking website. It's random.org. I'll scroll down to list randomizer. When I click on that, it's just a box here that you can drop data into. And for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But when I actually drop the application numbers in here, it's going to be the format that you're familiar with. So A dot series of numbers. But so for demonstration purposes, if I click randomize, it's going to spit out a random order of those 5 numbers. So that's how the lottery is going to take place. Pretty basic. You know, we think it's a little less prone to human error, obviously, than doing a manual drawing out of a box or something like that. So that's the reason to try to keep it as truly random as possible. So the order that random.org generates tonight for these drawings is going to allow us at SEB to properly sort the results onto the waiting list. And the waiting lists are what determine which households will get to reserve homes. Or to move on to the next step in the process to submit your income information to SEB Housing. Because remember, when you submitted your lottery application, you were self-reporting your income, and you'll need to submit, you know, pay stubs, tax returns, bank statements, that sort of thing, after the fact if you're one of the top households in the lottery. So we're able to confirm that you're eligible for the affordable housing program, and you can move forward in this process. So again, just the drawing results from tonight are not final because they do need to be sorted onto the waiting list. So after the lottery, an email is going to be sent to all lottery households with more information on next steps. And then you will be able to see where your application or where your lottery number is positioned relative to other lottery applicants. So once you receive that email, you're going to see the waiting lists are attached. If your lottery application number is highlighted in green, that's because you're one of the households who will be invited forward to immediately move forward in the process and submit your income, asset, and tax documentation to SEB Housing. So even though there's only 6 homes, there's going to be 18 applicants moving forward. So there's going to be 12 applicants moving forward from the 3-bedroom local preference list, and there's going to be 6 households moving forward from the 3-bedroom open list. So you might wonder, why would we invite 18 people forward if there's only 8 homes? And that's because we want to make sure that the process isn't delayed by us only screening the top 6 households from the waiting list. So it's possible that the top 6 households are going to provide all of the necessary documentation and be found eligible and eventually move towards purchasing one of the homes. If that ends up being the case and you were, the 15th person on the list, you may have submitted all of your income information into us and not be able to purchase one of the homes. But in our experience, it does take more than just the top households to be screened to be able to sell homes for the most part. So that's why we're doing it that way. And what else did I want to mention? So, like I said, the lottery is an important step in the process. But even if you're one of the top households on the waiting list after the drawing, you're not guaranteed a chance to purchase one of these homes because we do still need to do that income, asset, tax verification to confirm your eligibility for the affordable housing program. So there's still a few steps to go after tonight. But if you see that you are one of those top households on the waiting list after tonight, because your lottery application number is highlighted in green, you will be asked to move forward. You'll get a separate email from SEB Housing inviting you to submit all of your income information to us. And there's a lot of information that needs to be sent in. We're, of course, happy to work with you. If you don't have a completed application right away, we will let you know what's missing and go from there. I know that the question came in, you couldn't see my screen, so I stopped sharing after I did the demonstration, but I am going to share my screen again in just a minute to do the actual drawing. But did you have any questions before I run the lottery? Anything I didn't touch on that you were wondering about? All right, without further ado, I will start the drawings now. So I'm going to share my screen again. And what I'm going to do is I'll bring up the random.org again, but I will also have a spreadsheet here that has the lottery application numbers ready to be plugged in. And then once the results are populated by this website, I will copy and paste them onto the spreadsheet because it'll be a little bit easier for you to read it. This is random.org. This is the spreadsheet that I'm talking about here. So we've got the local drawing application numbers. There are 8 households that qualify for local preference. And then we've got all 32 households here. I said 31 before, but we did have one extra that was added. Yep, question here. I apologize. How much time do I have to submit all the required documentation if we're selected? So I think the first deadline is 7 to 10 days, somewhere in there. But if it drags on for even a couple weeks or beyond, as long as you are in touch with us and you're able to let us know if there's any delays on your end. We'll be working with you throughout that time. So there isn't kind of a set time by which you need to have it in. You just need to make sure that you're honoring the deadlines that are given. All right, so I'm going to start with the local preference list. So this is the local preference drawing for the Cottages at Old Oaken Bucket. These are the 8 local preference households. I'm going to drop those numbers, those lottery application numbers, into this list randomizer. And this is the local preference drawing for Scituate. All right, so number 1 was first, 5 was second, and so on. I'm going to just drop those into the spreadsheet here. This is a little bit easier to read. And I'm going to just fix that formatting there. And I will come back to this. Anybody who's called in who can't see the screen, there'll be an opportunity at the end in just a few minutes for me to look up your application number and let you know what position it was drawn in. And now I'm going to do the local list, and then I'll give you that opportunity to ask me to look that up for you. So I'm going to go back out to random.org and go into the list randomizer again and go over to the general drawing. So this is all households in the lottery. All 32 households. And this is the general drawing, so everyone is included in this for the Cottages at Old Oaken Bucket in Scituate. And again, I'm going to copy these results. As you can see, 24 was first, 32 was second. And let me just make this a little easier to read here. All right, so what I'm going to do is, for everyone that's on the call that can actually see the screen, this is the local preference results here. If you're a household who has local preference and you disclose that on your lottery application, real quick, I'm going to go out to the information packet to show you why local preference matters for 4 of these units. There's going to be a waiting list for 4 homes, and local preference households, when compared to non-local preference households of the same household type, so in this case, type 3, type 2, or type 1, the local preference households have priority. So they'll have a more favorable position on the local preference waiting list. There's also two homes that do not have local preference taken into consideration. So all lottery application numbers will be on both of these waiting lists. It's just if you're a non-local preference household, you're going to have a lower priority on the local preference list. So I know it's kind of confusing because if you don't have local preference, why are you on the local preference list? But that's just how the program is designed. So you do have a placement on that local preference list. So when you get the waiting list, just make sure that you're looking for your number on both of those. So I'll leave this up for a second. That's the local preference drawing. And then I'm going to toggle over to the general drawing so everyone can see their placement here. So this is the general drawing results. I'll scroll down so you can see all 32 numbers. And then if anyone isn't able to see their number and wants me to look it up, let me know and I can find it for you and let you know where your lottery application number was drawn. Then after tonight, or later on tonight, I should say, I'll be sorting the results onto the waiting list based off of, or using these order of priorities here. So you don't really know quite yet where you're going to fall on the waiting list, but in general, if your number is towards the top of the results here, that's great. If you're a type 3 household and you're at the top of the list, you should have a very favorable position on at least one of the waiting lists. Because again, type 3 households have the highest priority in this lottery because they're 3-bedroom homes. Anybody have any questions or want me to look up the number? How many type 3 people are there? So I actually have the, this is the sheet that's going to be sent to you with the waiting list results. I believe, just scroll down just because of this box here. There are 16 type 3 households. And then I know I had another question. Let me just grab that. So number 14 is number 4. What does that mean? Number 14, you're number 4 on the local list. These results are just giving me an order of priority when I sort the results onto the waiting list. So it doesn't mean a whole lot to you now. You're kind of right in the middle of the local preference list here. If you're a type 3 household, you're going to have higher priority on that waiting list than type 3 households who don't have local preference. And then I can see that you're number 14 on the general list too. So again, the results don't mean a whole lot. Just to, this is one step in the process. I am going to be using these results when I'm sorting them onto the waiting list, but you don't know yet where you're going to fall on the waiting list because you don't know ahead of you how many households or how many applicants are type 3 households and all of that. If there are 16 type 3 houses, so there's 16 type 3 households. So I think that's what you mean, the applicants in the general list. How did I get number 26? So your household type doesn't have any bearing on the lottery results. It will have a bearing on the where your household falls on the waiting list because these results right here haven't been sorted by priority or household type yet. This is just everybody lumped together. So anyone who qualified for this lottery, the person who's number 24 here might be a type 1 household. If they are, they're not going to be anywhere near the top of the waiting list, unfortunately, because they have the lowest priority. So again, this is just one step in the process, but the lottery is a required step in the process for us to be able to sort the results properly based on the affordable housing requirements. And so you'll get this sheet here along with the sorted waiting list results tonight. It will come from info@scbhousing.com. That'll be the email, and it will go to the email address that you applied using. So keep an eye out for that. Can you share how many local type 3 applicants there are? So I don't have the breakdown of how many type 3s are local, but I do have that there are 7, I should say qualify. There are 7 households who have local preference total. If you're high on big list but lower on the local list, what does that mean? So when I'm sorting the results onto the waiting list, hold on one second here. When I'm sorting the results on the waiting list, if you have a position on the local list and you're a type 3 household, there's only 7 local preference households. So if you're a type 3 local preference household, you're going to have a very favorable position on this waiting list because there's not going to be very many type 3 local preference households when there's only 7 local preference households total. If you're a lower priority, let me just see how you phrase this. Okay, if you're high on the big list, so if you have a favorable position on the general list, your position is going to be higher probably on this general waiting list that doesn't take local preference into consideration. So if you're a local preference household, whatever your position is on the local list doesn't matter when we're sorting the results of this general list. I know it's confusing, especially with the local priority taken into consideration, especially if everyone has a position on that list. So there's a question here about minority preference. So we did not have to do a minority drawing in this lottery, and that information is right here. This will be sent to you. So 3 of the 8 local preference households identify themselves as being part of a minority group. So since that percentage was 37.5% of the local preference pool, that's just what the percentage is, 3 of 8. Since that's higher than the percentage of minorities that the statistical area of Massachusetts has, we don't need to do an additional preliminary drawing. So what that means is basically minority households aren't going to have there's not going to be any difference in their ranking on these waiting lists. So it doesn't come into play because the program feels there's enough minority representation already in the local preference pool. So like I said, all of that will be, this sheet that is on your screen now will be sent to you. And hopefully when you see the waiting list, it'll make a little more sense in terms of, how they were sorted and all of that. But what about the non-local list for minority? There's no bearing on race or minority status for the general list, for either list in this case, but it never comes into play for the non-local list. Any other questions? Like I said, this is just one step in the process, the lottery, but then you'll have the waiting list, the sorted waiting list in your inbox tonight, and you'll be able to see where your position is on both the local preference list and the general list. And if you have any questions on it, please let us know. You can reply to the email, which will come from info@scbhousing.com. So I appreciate your attendance. Keep an eye on your inbox. Like I said, you'll have that later on tonight, so you'll know more as the night goes on. So final question here. So when we get an email, we'll know if we're in the first 6. Yep. So you'll be looking for your lottery application number on the waiting list on both of them. And if your lottery application number is highlighted in green, that means that you're one of the households that's going to be moving forward in the process, or is going to be invited to move forward in the process right away. Keep in mind, though, that I said that there'll be 18 households who are highlighted in green. So you might not be in the top 6, and you'll still be invited to move forward, just because we're inviting 3 times as many households forward as there are affordable homes. To get the process going, and just because typically it is not the first 6 households who actually end up purchasing the homes. But you'll know a lot more later. If you're highlighted in green, if your application number is highlighted in green, then that will be a great sign. Question here, if there are more than 6 type 3 households, does that mean all type 2 and 1 households will not move forward? Yes, unfortunately. So if the top 18 households who are invited to move forward are type 3, then we will not be, well, actually, hold on. There are only 16 type 3 households. So there will be at least 2 type 2 households that will be moving forward, just because we are inviting 18 households forward and only 16 type 3 households qualify for this lottery. But yes, in general, because of the interest in this lottery, because there was quite a few completed applications, there are going to be, at least in the first round of people who are invited forward, unless a lot of people drop off these waiting lists, it's unlikely that, the bottom portion of the type 2 households and the type 1 households likely won't get a chance to move forward in the process. That's not always the case for lotteries, especially for home ownership, because, it all depends on who applied. Larger households, this lottery was popular with larger households. Any other questions before I let you go?
I'm sorry, I'm calling in and I just had a question just because I can't see anything, so I'm a little confused. So I know you said that we'll get an email later and that certain application numbers will be highlighted green. How will we know if we're like we were chosen in one of the first 6?
So it'll be in order. So it'll have the ranking next to your lottery application number. Yeah, it'll say 1 through 32, and you'll see if you're number 10 or number 1. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it'll be clear on that. If you have any questions, though, once you see it, definitely reply and let us know. All right, so keep an eye on the inbox tonight, and I appreciate everyone attending tonight and for the questions, and we'll be in touch very soon. Have a good evening, guys.